Today we're going to talk about food and Juneteenth, and not necessarily the red foods you would think about, like watermelon and so forth. We're going to talk about the foods today that enslaved people would have more likely been eating at that time and before. My name is Andre Taylor, and I'm the historian of African American history and culture here at Colonial Williamsburg Foundation. Cowpeas are an interesting type of a food because they serve a dual purpose. They're very delicious to eat. You can add some meat to them to flavor them, and you can also use them to help cultivate crops. The nutrients that they provide to the ground help promote cultivation, and it makes for abundance of crops, and it's a need. So you need them to eat and you need them to cultivate. Okra is an interesting plant that came from West Africa. Its roots and origins are in Ethiopia and made its way west into Africa, and then made its way here into the American South. And what happened here is once it got here, it turned into a lot more things. There was already okra soup and okra stew in West Africa, but then you see it in things like jambalaya and so forth here. In modern terms of using it, we use it in restaurants as fried okra for people to eat as an appetizer. Millet is, I guess you could call it a superfood. It's a grain. It can be served and made into porridge, which makes it like a hot cereal almost, or cold, depending on who's making it and how they're making it. And it was something that enslaved people would have eaten before what would have been Juneteenth, and would have been before the Emancipation Proclamation. It would have been something they were familiar with coming from West Africa. Sorghum is also a grain. And one of the main things that sorghum gets used for is a sweetener. A lot of people will use sorghum to sweeten things as opposed to using a cane sugar or refined sugar. It also has health benefits because you'll see some people who are diabetic use sorghum instead of using refined sugars. Sweet potatoes are the wild card of the bunch. I would say that because they serve a duality. They serve as not only a stock, but they also serve as a side dish. And most people don't know about the stock part of it, but during 18th century cooking, sweet potatoes would have been used in things like a roasted chicken as a base for a stock. And you would have had the sweet potatoes serve as a way of providing fluid, liquid to the roasting process of the chicken. When we think about Juneteenth, as I stated before, we talk about the red foods, but what about the foods that the enslaved people would have been eating at that time? I think it's good to focus on what would have been as opposed to what we make it up to be. And it gives us an idea of how we can pay homage to them. And we also get a better understanding of how they created and developed what we know of as today as the American food identity.